Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Okay, let's do some numbers and see if we can work out how this new variant of the Model Y will work within the financials. It's obviously going to be a lower cost model, so does that mean there'll be less margin and profit? Well, this is what we need to work out. We'll also try and see if we can estimate what price this model will be for sale. The scarce element in this process is the battery supply. Tesla have a limited amount of batteries and must carefully decide where they are best allocated. Predominantly, where do we think these batteries should be allocated in order to make the most profit? To do this, we can try and calculate the profit per kilowatt hour of battery. I hope that makes sense to you. Put it this way, Tesla's manufacturing capacity outweighs their battery supply. I'm not sure how many people realize this, but it's important, especially if you're trying to evaluate Tesla's future growth. And yes, I'm talking about when supply chains are back to normal. Tesla only have so many gigawatt hours a year of batteries. Therefore, they need to use their judgment as to what products said batteries are placed in. On the other hand, we also have the mission. What is best for the mission is as many electric cars as possible. Obviously, the smaller the battery, then the more cars can be made, and the faster the progress of the mission, even if it means profits are somewhat sacrificed. But we can work out some actual numbers here anyway, and then draw our conclusions. I like letting numbers talk for me. So what even are the numbers here? What numbers do we want to know? What do we work out? I'd like to compare Tesla making long-range Model Ys in Texas over Tesla making medium-range Model Ys, and then we'll see where that takes us. Now, it would appear that it is looking possible that Tesla are able to achieve this 270-mile range with potentially a 40 kilowatt-hour battery. Now, when I first worked this out in a previous video, some people did make some good points about how the EPA actually say the battery size it's much larger than I said. It shows 28 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. Therefore, if this car has 270 miles of range, then that's actually a 78 kilowatt hour battery. And then some of you even thought that this would therefore mean that it's probably LFP, which is a fair assumption. Except the EPA figures are generic. On closer inspection, if you check the Model Y long range, then it also says it's 28 kilowatt hours every 100 miles as well, yet 330 miles of range. Well, that would then mean that the long range has over 92 kilowatt hour battery, and it's closer to 75. So I hope that clears that up, but I'm glad people are keeping me on my toes. Right, well that's easy then. If the long range is 75 kilowatt hours and the medium is 40 kilowatt hours, then Tesla can make almost twice as many cars. Except we're not comparing the correct opportunity cost. Those 75 kilowatt hour batteries are $2170, whereas the medium range is $4680. Well, what would we expect a battery pack size for 4680s if it was long range then? Well, we expect a 54% range increase, don't we? Which is 49 kilowatt hours. So let's round it to 50, as we actually did round the range for the medium from 39 to 40. Okay, perhaps not quite the discrepancy we expected. This is not a linear equation, by the way. These are all very indicative, as there are other variables at play, such as weight. For example, having 20% more battery doesn't mean you can get 20% more range, as there is the additional weight of the 20% more batteries. Therefore, I think 55 kilowatt hours might be more likely for a long range. The same applies for the 40 kilowatt hour battery. This has to be indicative only, but I would expect to be within 10%. It sure be good to get some actual numbers on the 4680 batteries. But for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to run with a 40 kilowatt hour battery versus a 55 kilowatt hour battery. That's a 38% larger battery, and that was the number we were trying to work out. The actual battery sizes are moot for this exercise, as we just needed to calculate how many additional vehicles the medium range would make instead of long range. Let's say that Tesla have 100 gigawatt hours of batteries a year. This is the run rate that we were last told to expect at the end of this year. I believe this is still the most current official target we've heard from Tesla. This would produce 1.8 million long-range Model Ys, or 2.5 million medium-range, a difference of 680,000, obviously still 38% more, as the battery pack was 38% smaller. Now this was not some video to spread my rhetoric of why it's so much better to have a medium range than a long range. This is a video for us all to look at and see what data comes, and it would appear that there would be 40% or so more vehicles if they are medium range instead of long range. It's not twice or anything, but it's still a noticeable difference. This will make the scarce batteries go a lot further. But what about profits? How much margin are we going to lose? Okay, well, I think to do this, we need to calculate how much each vehicle might cost to build. Now, these are obviously from the new factory with the new processes, but these cars should be identical with the exception of the battery. Now, the Tesla community seems to think that the 4680 battery can get as low as $56 a kilowatt hour. Of course, this was all before commodity prices changed everything, which makes it a bit more tricky. But if a battery pack is now $2,000 more, mainly due to nickel prices and lithium, and these are likely for 75 kilowatt hour batteries, that would imply about an additional $27 per kilowatt hour. Ouch. In addition to that, the mid $50 estimates were also an eventual price estimation over time when yields improved. On top of that, the price of other commodities have also risen. Therefore, I'm afraid to say that the cost of a 4680 battery may now be as high as $120 a kilowatt hour. This is still cheaper than what Tesla were paying for 2170 batteries, but of course they're rising in price now too. The good thing is that 4680 batteries are more energy dense and thus fewer are required, so the savings are exponential. Along with the new lighter weight manufacturing processes, less batteries are required. For instance, we're assuming 20 kilowatt hours less batteries in the 4680 long range compared to the 2170. This is still a good cost saving, but this is starting to look like the reason for this new vehicle. This ends up at a cost difference of $1,800 in savings for a medium range 4680 compared to a long range. Now that is not a major cost saving, not relative to the price drops we're expecting. Okay, well let's run some numbers. We will say that the long range with 4680 would have been $62,000, which is how much the Model Y long range has just been raised to. And then we'll try and work out what a suitable price tag would be for the medium range from there. I think that if Tesla were to make a long range 4680 at Texas, then it would still hit 40% margin, especially with the price rise. I've run these models before, but I also like to add an additional $50 per kilowatt hour in there than we initially expected, or $2,750 per vehicle, taking the total cost of $40,000. There are cost increases too, like aluminium, but we are factoring these in with the new price rise. Inflation is just going to make things harder for us, but we'll do our best. This would effectively reduce the margin to 35% for the long range. Now, if we remove the difference of $1,800 for the medium range battery pack, then that takes the cost down to $38,000 for that variant. Now, obviously, for Tesla to make the same amount of profit per vehicle for a medium range as a standard range, they would have to drop the price by $1,800, as that's the cost difference. But we're interested in total profit for the company, not per vehicle. And we have 600,000 more of these we can sell to make up some lost profit. So let's see what this comes to. Selling only long range and approximately 1.8 million units would lead to a total gross profit of $40 billion. Now, what if Tesla dropped their margin to 30% for the medium range in order to get to a lower price point? Then Tesla would need to charge over $54,000 to produce the same gross profit. Wow, we just uncovered it. Tesla can sell these new vehicles at $54,000 and it would result in the same total gross profit as if they made long-range vehicles. As far as net profit is concerned, we shouldn't see any difference, as OPEX should be about the same in both scenarios. Unfortunately, this isn't as low as I'd hoped, due to all the inflation, but it's still $8,000 less than the long range, which is a big difference, and I think it just goes to show how necessary this car is right now in the economy. But also, would Tesla really have demand for 1.8 million long-range $62,000 Model Ys in the US alone? Or would it be more likely Tesla has demand for 2.5 million Model Ys at $54,000? $54,000 still sounds like a lot, doesn't it? It isn't as much as you think. This is the adjusted for inflation price, remember. It's a new world. Everything else also just increased in price, and likely more so than the Tesla. Except in this scenario, we actually haven't increased the prices. We're still at $62,000 for long-range Tesla, and now they're bringing out a $54,000 version. If anything, Tesla have managed to reduce prices by bringing out this lower-cost model. Of course, we hope that all this inflation will improve when supply chains are sorted, and that prices will come down further. And we also hope that everyone's wages will increase too, and that we are not in some sort of stagflation period. Alright though, it wouldn't be a true TE video without a bit more icing on the cake. So what did we miss? We have these additional 600,000 or so vehicles obviously. That's 600,000 or so more customers that Tesla can upsell to, with services like insurance, but of course FSD. Well, the extra FSD income would come in at $800 million. Not massive, but it's still something. I only have a 20% adoption and a 50% deferred revenue with that though, and within time more of these customers will likely adopt FSD as it eventually becomes complete, and then the 50% deferred revenue should turn to zero, and then we might be looking at closer to an additional $4 billion a year. But we know the big money is in the actual robotaxis, so this would also mean an additional 600,000 robotaxis out on the road, earning the big bucks. But all these crazy nickel prices are starting to make LFP look good. Yes, there's lithium in LFP still, but I think this is a much smaller relative cost compared to nickel. The timing is a shame. If these crazy prices hadn't occurred for just a couple more years, Tesla would have likely had their LFP battery factories operational. I have a feeling that within time, these models will be replaced with Tesla's own LFP batteries, and Tesla will be able to hit this level of range. I think that is when it will have its greatest impact, although even the LFP models didn't escape the price increases this time round. Although it may not mean a massive more amount of profit for the time being, I think it's good that Tesla are potentially launching a more affordable model, and that there'll be more Teslas out on the road. It is best for the mission, but it would also appear it's going to be best for the financials too. A long-range electric vehicle may become a thing of luxury, but medium range is a sweet spot due to there being fewer batteries and reducing the weight that much further. This can be further supported with a better charging infrastructure and faster charging speeds. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.